So it's another interesting Easter Saturday morning for Christians, the morning before the resurrection of Jesus Christ. But for us, we're here to talk about football. We are here to talk about sports, and for every Saturday morning, the team, sit down and we go hard on interesting topics and discussions. And this morning too, we have an interesting, lineup for you. You don't want to miss the show. This is Sports 101, and this is Breakfast with Sports 101. I'm here with Kofi Asedu, Percy Bonnie. But if you are watching us live, we are also live on Tadi FM 99.1, and we are shooting live from Noble House Restaurant, an amazing place to enjoy your meals and bring the family and catch some fun. Listen, this show is a show that we are doing with you, so get interactive with us in the comment section. We want to know your take on the topics that we'll be looking at this morning. Today we have a very packed show for you this morning. We're hoping that we can do all that in the space of 1 hour 30 minutes. Kofi,
Yes, Clacky.
how's your Easter Saturday going?
Charlie, it's been amazing. It's been amazing. It's a time to break away from all of the hustle and bustle to reflect on, for us who believe in the Savior dying on the cross, to reflect on the things that he had to go through to die on that cross, and then to reflect on the changes that we ought to make in our lives so that we will live lives befitting of the cross. And so it's been a wonderful week, and we hope to crown it with a wonderful show, not just this morning but tomorrow evening also.
Yeah, I think this week has been an interesting week
Very
in
interesting
the
week.
sporting world.
Very interesting week.
The Masters, has started.
Yes.
Chelsea, Charlie. That team.
The Masters had to be started, and yesterday because of bad weather, it had to be paused for a while.
Tomorrow we'll probably
Yes.
get deep into it. Percy, what's happening?
Everything is cool.
Everything is great.
Just been under the weather for past days.
I don't know what's going on. I think that the terrain is not so conducive for. But hey, we are here to serve. We are here to serve the guys with the best.
But all the same, we are kicking.
Yeah.
We are kicking by God's grace.
By
and,
God's grace, I mean,
we are here to work.
We're good. So, guys, this is what we are looking at. Over the last few years, we've seen a lot of interesting sporting projects across the globe, especially in the world of football. We could talk of the Manchester City project. We could talk of the PSG project.
Chelsea.
Do Chelsea have a project?
They did.
So there are a lot
Monaco
of interesting. The Napoli project, actually, I listened to Aurelio De Laurentiis where he spoke about the new changes that he intends to rope in and their plan for the next 10 years. And so there's been interesting sporting project, but on top of my mind is the Manchester City project. And I make mention of the Manchester City project because it's a project that has gone through the first 3 phases upon its adoption. I remember when the Thai billionaire bought Manchester City, Shinawatra. When he bought Manchester City, there were the likes of Sven-Goran Eriksson, Mark Hughes, and these managers have come through. He tried to bring in the likes of Elano. They tried to bring in players to revolutionize Manchester City. City at the time of the purchase was not a club that over. In Manchester, it was solely red.
Yes.
Nobody spoke about Manchester City.
They were a little
They
club, tiny club.
very, very tiny club. They're actually, struggling between relegation and having to stay afloat. But since the purchase, they won the Carabao, the Carabao Cup or the EFL Cup at the time. They had the opportunity to win the FA Cup at the time. Then the Abu Dhabi owners came to take over from Manchester City. When they came to take over, they actually outlined a proper project where they had a short-term project, an immediate-term project, and a long-term project. In the short term, they wanted to make Manchester City a very relevant club in England in the immediate term as well, bringing a lot of fan base. Then in the long term, bringing trophies. And I think that that made a lot of sense. You don't just buy a club and expect that, hey, I need to win trophies. You need to have faces. So they wanted to make the club very relevant. And they did that with some of the purchases that they brought in, the likes of, Carlos Tavares. They brought in some very, very good players. They even at the point pulled Robinho from the noses of Chelsea. They brought in all these players in a way to try to make the club relevant in England. I remember when they took over, they brought in Ferran Soriano, who at the time was the head of finances at Barcelona. In a post before Pep Guardiola left Barcelona, Soriano outlined some huge financial business plans where he felt that the state of Barcelona, or the club Barcelona, should get to the point where Barca would compete financially with the biggest clubs in England. But at the time, Barcelona were more or less like a charity organization, not so much into sponsorship money and all of that because of the ownership structure of Barcelona. But he had some radical, financial ideas. But because it didn't sit well with the hierarchy of Barcelona and the board of Barcelona, he had to leave Barcelona. Then the Abu Dhabi owners scooped him up together with Tiki Bergistan. They brought in all those revolution. At the time, there was one guy who was a sporting director. His name has escaped me. He was a sporting director at City. He was demoted to be the head of the academy project, the City academy project. Then Tiki Bergistan took over. Now, upon he taking over, he outlined also drastic plans. Tiki Bergistan is currently and has been the sporting director since he was brought in. Now, upon he taking over, what he has done so well is outline a sporting project. That's what I said earlier on. Yes, they had a plan before he came in, but he has gone further to outline a sporting project that includes the development of the academy and the global phase of it. Now, City are in the final phase of the project. They've gone beyond becoming a club that should be relevant in England, becoming a club that has a strong, support base in England and outside England. Right now, some fans outside England associate themselves with Manchester City. It's not just the English community. Now they are in the third phase of the project, win major trophies. And they've done that convincingly well in the Premier League. As to what is left right now is for them to be able to translate that dominance to Europe and probably conquer Europe for a long time. Like I said, it's a project, it's a phase. I don't know what you make of all this Manchester City project and the changes that we've seen. Now, we've seen a lot of football projects. Let's look at football projects across the globe.
Well, I think that like all major endeavors in life, if you want to do something, there's the short term, there's the medium term, there's the long term, and like all of these endeavors, there's something that offers as a guide, if I should put it that way. And so people in lay terms call it a blueprint, or people call it a map, a road map. And so basically a football project is that one composition that has been written and agreed upon intentionally on paper, you understand, or whatever medium that they need to write it on, and that they have a sense of direction, they have goals, they have KPIs, they have things that they need to look at. And so basically these are football projects. And like Percy mentioned, I mean, there are lots of them that we have seen across the ages. The Monaco project with the Russian billionaire, there's been the Chelsea project with Abramovich, there's been the PSG project, there's been the City project, there's been a couple of projects. But basically, if you zoom into the City project, I think that it is one that excites me a bit. It excites me a bit because of the components, because of the not too much chaos surrounding this particular project. I say that not too, yes, I say not too much chaos because if you look at all of the other projects, I mean, probably the closest that came to the City project was the Chelsea project at Abramovich, because there was a very, very, very empirically related what should I structure. So there were clearly defined lines, and because Abramovich clearly worked out the structural details of whatever the project had to entail, what happened was that there was not too much chaos. There was, yes, at a certain point there were people like Eminalo and Grana Skya and playing, partying, and there, but everybody knows their role. Everybody played their role according to plan, and at the end of the day, what they did was that they grew from obscurity into one of the biggest clubs in contemporary times in the world football. And for me, if you look at the City project, I think that it is one that excites me, obviously because of the reasons I've stated. I say it excites me because if you look at City, there's not been too much confusion about who plays this role, who plays that role, who has to do this, who has to do what. So there are clearly defined lines. I mean, in fact, since the appointment of Tigli Begristan, I have struggled to even find things in the media that associate him with that particular project. Yeah. So it tells you one thing, that he's doing his job on the quiet. Soriano has come in, done his job excellently. City, I can tell you at this material time, have one of the best footballing academies in world football. Not just football, and I'm pretty sure that for people who are associated with us in the UK and elsewhere in the diaspora, have had the opportunity to travel. Anybody who has been to the City Academy project will tell you that it is one of the most advanced edifices in the world.
In England, it is the most advanced, like, let me borrow your word, edifice in England, and it's the envy of most
exactly
English,
state of the art. State of the art. For a long time, you talked about City reeling in the shadows of Manchester United. For a long time, it had to be Old Trafford and the Saints at Carrington. But City have clearly and slowly gone through this project and have become one of the major highlights. I mean, one of the focal points when they come to development of next generation talent and then training facility. Cristiano Ronaldo talks about the fact that the swimming pool at Manchester United even had to be altered because at the end of the day, when he came, Cristiano Ronaldo was the reason why the swimming pool had to be changed. Yeah. You understand? So, but when you go to City, there are levels of this. I mean, you go to the various gymnasia, you go to where the guys train, you go to where the guys are able to do their recoveries. I think that we speak about the City projects because, wholly, there's one vacuum that is left to be filled. That is, with all things considered, you look at the project in totality, I think that it's been run excellently. And yes, City have had their own demons with the FFP and all of those other things. I think that sometimes they bent the rules to favor them a bit. They've cheated their way across bringing in revenue and not stating the right things. In fact, as per fact, even now they are the investigation for some of the things they are perceived to have done wrongly. But I think that what they have done is to build a very, very, very stable entity that one rakes in a lot of money. Now they are able to bring in some of the next generation talent. It used to be the preview of the Aston Villas and the other team, Manchester United. Now United can't even compete with City for young talent because they look at the training facilities, they look at everything there, and they are tempted to think that I'm better off growing up here. I'm better off honing my talent here.
No.
So
continue.
So those are the things that I think make the City project stand out. And like you said, I'm pretty sure that in the course of the discourse, we'll look at the pros and the cons, and we'll look at how we can be able to adapt some of these models here. Sometimes when we speak about 101 and we speak about contextually trying to grow our football, it's sad because all of these blueprints have been laid out there in the Western world, and all we need to do is in architecture, there's something they call localized architecture. You look at the architecture holistically and you try to adopt a model that works perfectly based on your climatic conditions, based on everything that pertains in this particular environment. And so I think that maybe going forward we'll look at those aspects of that particular conversation.
Before I get to Percy, one thing that's interesting with this, you spoke about some of the best generational talent. In that City talent pool that year, they produced the likes of Jadon Sancho, Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham, and when some of these players decided that Jadon Sancho, and they had a crop of talent during that pool. So then decided to step out and go out there. If they had kept, if these young boys had not, Jadon Sancho said he had not said, okay, I want to branch out and go out there. If those young players had stayed with Manchester City, I'm sure by now that City team will take some beating, because look at what Phil Foden is doing right now. Jadon Sancho has not really replicated his form at Borussia Dortmund, at Manchester United, because of his own personal issues, but he's a great talent out there. But guys, if you're watching us, this is Sports 101 and this is Breakfast with Sports. Let me throw out the question. Let me throw out this question. Which sporting project has excited you in the last, modern day or contemporary time? Is it the Chelsea project, the City project, the PSG project? You may say the PSG project has its own demons, but some may say yes, it has looked exciting on paper. Even we stretch back to that Monaco project.
Yes.
It produced some of the best talents that we've seen in a long. Bernardo Silva,
even Kylian Mbappe,
Fabinho, Kylian Mbappe.
Yes.
That crop of Monaco players that made it all the way to the semi-finals. They were a very, very solid team out there. So, which footballing project or sporting project has excited you in the contemporary time or in the last 15-20 years? Let us know what you think. But if you're watching us, make sure you share the link, join us in the conversation in the comment section. Percy, should every football club have a project? Should it necessarily have a project, or hey, let's see what we do, let's just play the game, we are here to play football? Should every football club have a project?
First of all, you should know that every football club is registered. Registered as an entity, as a company.
Yeah.
And so the question should rather be that should every company have a project, which is very obvious. Not necessarily obvious, but the very fact that you are an entity that makes money. Football is business. Probably it's in Ghana that we see it as but it's business.
Fonchendi.
Football is business, and as long as it's business, it has to have a blueprint. It has to have a template. It has to have a format. It has to have everything set, laid down. Not like we bring players, they come, they play, they get paid, they go. No. Football has transcended. In fact, it's not now that project started. Project has started way before. If you check that Madrid team that won 5 straight Champions League, it was a project. It was a project by Santiago Bernabeu. It was a long-term project. A project that made them snatch players from under the noses of other teams, snatch Di Stefano from under the noses of Barcelona. It was a project. And every project has its timeline. So if you check throughout history, every project, in fact, most of these big teams, successful teams, their climax or the crowning moments of their project is either a Champions League win or enabling the national team that team plays in to excel in the national, maybe if it is Euros, if it is a World Cup. I gave you Real Madrid. They went a long stretch and won. And when their project was over, Benfica took over. Bela Gutmann and his project. They went to 3 straight Champions League final. They won 2. AC Milan won the next. Then the Helinho Herrera project, the Catanaccio project, it also took over. Then it went on and on. Then the Matt Busby project, that's yielded in 68. Then 69, AC Milan were still in their project that made them win in 63. and they also made them win in 69. Then the final project, nobody saw it coming.
Yeah.
They were the first Dutch team to win in 70. Then the Ajax project, 71, 72, 73. Then the Bayern project.
Well, I think that you spoke about the fact that every project, the climax has to be winning major trophies.
Major trophies.
Or enabling the national team.
Yes.
And with the Ajax projects, for example, they virtually the total football. I mean, what they did was that he gave the national team a crop of players.
Exactly.
I mean, in fact, they've been labeled as the best team never to have won the World Cup. Yes, I mean, that's great.
It was the same thing. And it happened to the Germans too. When you took over for the Germans from 75 to 76, that was when they won straight. It was the Bayern team that was also the German team. So when they won the Champions League in 74, they went to win the World Cup in 74. They went to win the Euros. The same, Beckenbauer, the same crop of players. They went to win the Euros too in 76. And the funny thing is that Bayern team that people see to have won the Champions League straight 3 years. 3 years before, they were playing in Bundesliga 2. Bayern had never played in Bundesliga 1 before.
This is massive education.
They had never played before. They started with youngsters, a young Gerd Müller, a young Beckenbauer. Then even their qualification, it was a miracle that made them qualify. Then they kept the team together. They kept them together. Then they played through. So the time they all matured and reached their twilight, they won 3 straight Champions League. They won the World Cup. They won the Euros. No team has ever done this with club and national team. So like I'm saying, if a project is done and done well, it is not just the team that benefits. And just as I'm going through this, and you go on and on and on and on and on and on and on, you can scrap all of that to maybe the 90s. And in the 90s, that this whole thing also started. You realize that every single time that the Italians, I said it the last time, when the whole the eyes of the whole Europe is not on them, and
spring a surprise,
and you are always focusing on the other teams. That is when they are burdening their project. And when everything sources up, you realize that they come out of the blue, they win. That means that is the end of their project. It's like the Germans. They win and they are gone. And the City project, I just want to pick an individual and how he not necessarily a project that the team does, but he bringing in a project.
Can we add the Barcelona project?
I was coming to.
And
Guardiola. That's what I'm coming to.
I think
and Guardiola is the one person
leading Spain to win.
Yes, Guardiola is the one person that brings up a project. Ones I was talking about were actually maybe something that the whole team does. He's the one individual that when he brings up the project, it affects the entire country and the way they play.
So he's a good projects manager.
He is. See, you can take everything away from him.
Probably call him the greatest projects manager
I'll
ever.
give it to him.
The greatest projects
For this,
manager.
I'll give it to him. You may not like a whole lot of things about him. But then, maybe you can say that maybe Tiki Taka was there and
those things were
okay.
Existent, but we always
yes.
People always.
But then, if you take what he did with the Barcelona team, like I said, project is not necessarily about. You've talked about the infrastructure. I don't want to talk there, but a system. I want to talk about a system of football. Of course, it won't last forever. It's for just maybe for 5, 6, 7 years.
That's true.
And his 2008 to 2012 that he left, within that time, Spain won every major trophy. You can dispute it.
The producer of the best players in the world.
Well.
I don't even want to talk about it. You see, project is not necessarily producing the best of players. It is about making the team efficient
and
very, very
impactful.
Well, Percy, I don't know whether you call it coincidence because listen. You see, I agree to all of the assertions you have made. I agree that Pep Guardiola is a great coach. I agree that he's great at handling projects. I mean, obviously, there's empirical data to support all of the claims that you have made. But I also agree that he was blessed to have three of the best players of this generation.
Oh,
I mean,
for
this generation has seen. I mean, and listen, if you look at that generation of players, Xavi, Iniesta, Messi, at the peak of their powers. I say this because, see, let's not pretend Pep Guardiola was the genesis of everything that they did. I mean, obviously, with Rijkaard, already there was Puyol, there was Xavi. The people speak about Iniesta. Iniesta actually,
was playing under Rijkaard.
Iniesta actually played in that Champions League final.
Yes, he played.
Yes, when they beat
In fact,
Arsenal.
he was one of the game changers.
Exactly, when they beat Arsenal in that Champions League final, I think in 2006.
2006,
Yes, he was
he
there.
came from the bench.
Iniesta came from the bench. So there was a fulcrum of everything good that Pep Guardiola brought. I mean, yes, I agree. I mean, that school of thought will tell you that, oh, okay, he brought people like Sergio Busquets from the academy. There was the introduction of Yaya Toure, blah, blah, blah. But you see, there were constants in that team.
Of course.
If that team, Xavi and Iniesta could just walk away from the Barcelona team, go to the Spanish national team, which, let's not kid ourselves, did not play the same tiki-taka. Maybe they took opportunity of everything good, because the first time they booked the dark, I think it was under Vicente Debosky. You understand? When they
Luis Aragones.
Aragones, you understand?
He didn't play
yes,
tiki-taka.
he didn't play tiki-taka.
It was still a Spanish type of football.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know what you people call the Spanish type of football, but they didn't play
Tiki-taka was not even... Tiki-taka was
does
the
not belong
1930s
to
football
Barcelona.
It was there.
In
It
fact,
wasn't even a Spanish
tiki-taka
ball.
was perfected by the Dutch in the 1970s.
Of course.
Called there was a great Dutch code. I'll get the name.
Reynolds
for you.
Michel.
Reynolds Michel. They called it total football. You understand? They called it total football. And so, yes, I agree to the things that you say about Pep Guardiola and this project.
Let me try and throw this out there. So, guys, if you're watching us, we're doing a live discussion on footballing projects and the impact that they've made. Live on Tadi FM as well, 99.1. Just Percy will put out the WhatsApp line because it's very, very important. Percy, help us to put out the WhatsApp line, so that those that are listening to us also can join in the conversation.
Oh, it's 0242
0242
145
145
249
249 0242 145 249. So join in the discussion on WhatsApp. We'll read your WhatsApp message, but engage a section. Which sporting project? I just don't want us to even limit it to just football. Which sporting project has excited you in the last 20 years? So they've made mention of the Barcelona project, the Bayern project, the Manchester City project. These are for the Manchester City project is for more or less the new school guys, but they've been the Dutch project, the AC Milan project that has seen a lot of exactly.
Agnelli project.
For let me date back a little to the early 2000s, the Galactico era, because that's a project that was. For
there
me,
have been
was
two
very
Galactico. So Galactico 1 and Galactico 2.
Yes, not to cut you short. You see, we talk about the recent Chelsea buying spree.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we forget that under Florentino Perez's reign, in fact, when he bought the likes of the Cristiano Ronaldos, the Kakas,
in one season, he had two of the best players in the world.
I mean,
two Ballon d'Or.
they bought about 8 players.
Yeah.
You understand that particular Real Madrid team? This guy who is manager of League of Kusin, Xabi Alonso was bought in that.
Benzema.
Yes, I mean,
Exactly.
so you can talk about all of these projects, but I think that listen, guys, if you talk about projects, there are people at the center of these projects. And that is where I want us to zoom into. Oftentimes, we've talked about technical directors,
Yeah.
we've talked about sporting directors, we've confused ourselves with all of these other terminologies, and I'm pretty sure that just recently the GFA brought in somebody. They said he was technical director. He was supposed to oversee. Yes, he was supposed to oversee everything. So this morning we want to, since we talk about projects, we want to zoom into the roles of these people in football. We want to zoom into how they relate, who they are, if there are examples of them, what advantages you have having all of these technical directors, sporting directors, all of these terminologies, all of these confusing terminologies. You see, Lucky in his opening statement talked about the fact that for every team, there needs to be a project. And I think that Percy also agreed with that particular emphasis that every team is registered as a company, and every company ought to have a project, and that there needs to be a blueprint as to which direction you need to move, which direction the whole entity needs to be driven towards. This is where you would have to make key personnel input. You understand? There's no project in this world which has succeeded without key personnel input. And listen, in contemporary times, we talk about technical directors, we talk about sporting directors. Some people call it football directors, director of football. In plain language,
And in Ghana, how do you call
you call them Wanchendi. You understand? You call them Wanchendi. We have guys at the FA. I mean, a very good morning to Keto Craig. We have guys at the FA who are called technical directors. They are supposed to oversee everything of football. But in layman's language, a technical director is somebody who is supposed to coordinate one, the scouting, the coaching, and the medical unit of everything. So there's the scouting, there's the coaching, and the medical component. You understand? So if we talk about a club, like we spoke about the football project Barcelona, we spoke about the football project City, there are various facets of that particular project. There is the football project, or the football project, which is more concerned about, in fact, is the major component or the major tangible that everybody else gets to see. Because you can have all the projects you want in the world, but if the guys come on the pitch and they are not delivering, what is the essence of the project? So there's the scouting component, and then there's the coaching component, and then there is the medical component. And so all of these fall under the jurisdiction of the technical director. And then you have a sporting director who is, in terms of the hierarchy, lower than the technical director. And so you realize that for every country there are models. And the reason I'm excited about the City project is that they adopted a model that until recently had not been seen in England. Why do I say so? You look at England, traditionally, the manager has always played the role of the sporting director and the manager. You understand? The manager, so if you look at the relationship between Alex Ferguson and David Gill, they were probably the greatest 1-2 in contemporary football in terms of English football. So what they do is that, the manager has his ideas, he controls the coaching, and then he also controls the scouting. But then you bring in the sporting director. That model was championed by the Germans. The Germans championed that particular model. And what they did was that, listen, in terms of the hierarchy, the sporting director is the guy, the conduit between the manager and the chairman of the club. So if the manager wants to go to the chairman of the club, he needs to go through that conduit, which is the sporting director. So if the manager wants to sign any player, he needs to go through the sporting director.
So if maybe if we want to expand it, maybe to make a better example, let's say if you take Bayern. Let's say now we have Tuchel.
Yes.
So if Tuchel wants to go and buy, let's say, Ronaldo.
He wants to come and buy me.
He wants to come and buy you.
He needs
can't
to
just go straight to
Karl-Heinz
Rummenigge,
yes,
or
who is
Oliver Kahn.
Oliver
He has
Kahn.
to go to Hassan Salihamidzic,
Yes.
and tell him I want to buy him.
Yes.
Then he will go to Oliver Kahn and
Exactly.
Okay. So
And then and what's the name of the guy? Hassan.
Let's take that Hassan.
Hassan. Let me go with Hassan. So Hassan Salihamidzic will then look at the player, will then throw all of the things to the scouting department, because the scouting department is critically operated by Hassan. Then they will look at all the list of probables, because the manager will tell you that I want a player, an archetypal player of this particular feature. You understand? They will look at all the probables, they will look at all the data they have in their map, and then the sporting director also has to be charismatic enough, because he's the leader of delegation when they come to negotiation. So the sporting director plays that particular role. So what the Germans have done and done efficiently is that they have brought ex-footballers who know the system, who know the nuances, who understand the thoughts of players, and are able to be that charm offensive, even when it comes to reaching out to players. So in the past, you've had famous like the Dortmund projects. There's
Yeah.
this guy.
Hans-Joachim Watzke.
Yes.
Yes.
And then there's a particular gentleman who is very known, was an Dortmund player.
Summer.
No, not Matthias Sammer.
Last Racken.
Yes, I mean, I think that the name comes close to that.
He
Yes,
scored in their final.
exactly. So they do. Even my good friend,
You have a lot of good
no, your guy,
Otuado.
your guy, no, Otuado, the guy you call a serial caller. So this is who a sporting director is. You understand? And so, for every project to function, there needs to be a sporting director. There needs to be a technical director. And I'm pretty sure that with this little education that we have given this morning, but the issue is simple: that the English are failing to embrace this particular model. We've seen City do it. We've seen them survive. Now I think that yes, I mean there's a bit of a gentle revolution when it comes to some of these things. For a long time, I think Granovskaya did it very well. Even with Manchester United, there's motto. You understand? But to end, before you guys come in, the issue is that the sporting director even coordinates the style of play of the team.
Yeah.
So for the Germans, I mean, if you've listened to the show 1,001 times, Percy constantly talks about the fact that in German football, one man runs the whole unit. So there's a style of play that is effectively communicated all throughout the various branches. You understand? So that is the job of a sporting director. So little of no surprise that City
No
all
management committee
exactly.
members.
There's no management committee members. Everything is run organically. Everything is run through a particular conduit. So the sporting director, in fact, formulates all of the things that I've spoken about, playing style. So it becomes easier to recruit. That's why it's easier for him to do the scouting, because when he formulates the playing style, Ragnick constantly spoke about the playing style that Man United needed.
for
Yes,
Ragnick,
I mean, yeah, your serial caller. Yeah, he constantly spoke about the
talk.
playing style, and then so when you identify a clear playing style, you know which players you are going for.
I think that the reason why most of these English clubs over the years were not used to this system is because of the structure of ownership. If you look at the German model,
They
the
have the 50
Spanish
plus
model,
one.
the Italian model, and even the English model, the structure of ownerships are different. The German model and the Spanish model is a bit similar. They are practically or literally owned by the fans.
Yeah.
They literally own the fans, elect people as presidents, honorary presidents, honorary CEOs, or whatever. Use your money to run it. But in terms of voting, we have the determining right. If things are not going well, we can call for a vote to sack you. Real Madrid fans can decide that as good as Florentino Perez you've been, we just wait our white flags, in the stadium. We call for a majority vote, you are out. Barcelona fans can decide that, hey, you're running our club down the drawdome. So the German clubs literally also run the same model. The fans own the team, the clubs. As great as Bayern is, the team belongs to the fans that are being run by people they think that, oh, these guys are so astute enough to run the club. Now, to add to what you've said and to answer the question, if you look at sporting directorship, in units like Ghana, we cannot have a sporting director because we do not have sporting directorates when you have a huge sporting project. Accra Heart to Folk, literally,
Wanchendi.
no, it's not like one Chindi. Apart from the Heart to Folk as an entity and probably Arorax and maybe the female team, there's really nothing of a sporting project. But Bayern have a lot of sporting entities.
Basketball units.
Huge entity. Real Madrid, Barcelona, most of these German clubs, they have junior teams that stem from under 8, under this, under that, under that, under this, under that. Hatfield just have one junior team.
They don't have under 14.
No, Hatfield don't have
Under
under
10.
14. They don't have under 10.
Okay.
They don't. But
They have
City,
Auroras.
but City do have from
Yeah, all of the calibrations.
exactly. If you go to La Masia like this, there's La Masa, there's La Masia, there's different sections from under 4 to up onto the juvenile A, juvenile B, and all of that. So you do not have a sporting director for a smaller project. So usually smaller entities deal with technical directors. That, like Kofi said, you literally have a technical direction with which the club should go because it's very small. You know, you can say, oh, the medical team, this and this and this and that. That's the reason why mostly it's advisable that national teams have technical directorates because it is small. You can manage the smaller entity, but you don't say Ghana national team has a sporting director. It's so huge a role for you to give it to something small of an entity. But if we're a proper functioning organization, we can say that the Ghana FA, instead of having a technical director, the FA should have a sporting director.
That is that is the
actually
role of Oliver Bierhoff.
The role of
the whole
yes.
DFB.
He handles everything.
Everything.
So he handles the technical director, everything of the club because it's huge. You have Ghana under 17, under this,
So
under
many.
that, the
We
female
should
team,
have
the
had.
this, the this, the
Technical
You
director
have-
is
you have
too-
a sporting director, like you said. When it comes to the sporting direction of the club, is in your hands.
Purely is.
How the football is going to be played, what kind of players we are going to recruit, what kind of manager we are going to
The hiring and firing of managers
everything
should
is-
not be
is in your
should
purview.
not be the FA boss's job.
Now, the reason why England do not have that is the structure of ownership. Now, most English teams are owned by individuals, and most individuals want to be hands-on with how the club operates. So if you have somebody like Joe Louise, they want to be hands-on. So it will be so difficult for you to shed close to about 90% of your responsibility to a sporting director or even a manager.
Yeah.
That these two should handle, because you're looking at this from the perspective that I'm using my money. Why should I leave it to somebody who, literally is supposed? They want to be, most English clubs want to be part of the decision making. So if you a typical example is how Everton is run. The owner of Everton is literally hands-on in terms of the decision. Prior to the Saudis coming to take over Newcastle, the Newcastle owner, I've forgotten his name, very popular owner
Davis-
before these guys.
Oh, the guy was
Ashley?
chased out.
Was
Mike
it
Ashley.
Mike
Ashley.
Ashley. He was
yeah.
hands-on in terms of bringing in managers, firing managers, all of that. But if you watch these new owners, they quickly brought in this lady who.
Yes.
What's her name?
I've forgotten her name, but
there's this
yeah,
lady.
there's the who leads the project.
She's
yeah.
now literally leading the project. So she reports to the owners, liaises with the manager. She leads the project. So one of the major reasons why in England they cannot do that is the structure of ownership. It's the reason why even till now, some of the big clubs in England are struggling to adopt the idea of sporting directors or director of football. Another thing is that there's a bit of a. I want to pick a typical example. At Barcelona, they do have a sporting director. They do have a director of football. Now, at the time Tiki Bergistan was there, he was the sporting director. The director of football was handled by Fernandez. The two of them literally work hand in hand. Tiki Bergistan looked at the entire Barcelona project. Then the director of football was given to Fernandez so that he would solely focus on the Barcelona A team. So usually teams that have sporting directorate and director of football, the director of football is given probably a section of that project. So let's say if Mariana Granovskaya, well, she literally was the sporting director at the time together with Emiliano. But though Mariana was more or less financially in terms of all that, but Emiliano was the director of football. He was handling the Chelsea football, the Chelsea A team, together with the academy and everything. So director of football usually handles one or two entities, whilst the sporting directorship handles practically the bigger sporting project. But Kofi, the big question then is, Percy, why is it so difficult for, let's stretch the discussion. We've looked at England. The difficulty is basically because of the structure of ownership. Now we've had Liverpool trying to move away, Manchester United trying to move away. They have, John Murtough liaising with, Eric Ten Hag to run the footballing entity of Manchester United. For City, we know they are doing something good. Even Liverpool, in a way, we do not know who necessarily is the sporting director of the club or who the director of football is at the club. Why is it so difficult for African teams to adopt this module? Because listen, for everything you want to see, El Ali has one of the best. They do have a junior team that runs from under 17, under 18, under 19, under 23 through to their senior team. Most of these Arabian or Maghrebian clubs do have. Even in South Africa, the two big clubs together with Sundowns, they also run the same model together with Sporting, Super Sport FC. Some of these South African, but they still use the same old model, the owner, the coach model. Why is it so difficult? Is it because we've not understood the idea of sporting directorship and its importance?
Yeah, you realize when Kofi started, he gave a very good education. You went to it high. I want to hammer on just something you said, and I will relate it to this, and that has to deal with sporting director has to deal actually in actual sense. It will have to deal with an entity that does something more than football.
Yeah.
Not only juvenile or whatever, more than football. Save the Germans, that for them we can talk about something else. If you go to not just Spain, if you go to, let's say, Dynamo Kiev, they have a sporting director.
Yeah.
Because they have a basketball team, they have a hockey team, they play in the Euro League, the Euro basketball. The same thing for Barcelona. Barcelona has a hockey team, a basketball team, and whatever. So
both male and female.
Male and female.
Real Madrid likewise.
The same thing. So Juan Laporta is not the president of Barcelona football team.
No.
He is the president of Barcelona. Every sporting entity under them. You realize that the last...
That's why Bartomeu was able to chop the money.
last two El Clasicos, that's before this one. Excuse me. Excuse me. Last two El Clasicos. You realize that Perez was not there.
Yeah.
And they asked him and he said he was watching a Real Madrid match. And we're like, which Real Madrid match? I said, yes, there's a basketball match going on. He went to watch a Real Madrid basketball match. And he wasn't wrong.
No.
He is the president of Real Madrid. So if he doesn't come for El Clasico and he watches another Real Madrid match, it doesn't change anything. Because they are all part of the entity. If you take Africa, now there are some teams that are now trying to, you know that Africa today are starting with their basketball. They call it BAL,
the ball.
Basketball Africa League.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Basketball Africa League. Excuse me. A few of these teams are able to have other sporting disciplines other than football.
Yeah.
If you bring in a sporting director, it is you trying to say that you have the financial, like you said, it is more like trying to use what do you call it?
To kill an ant.
Yes. Or you are trying to use a chainsaw to weed. You only bring a chainsaw when you have to cut down big trees. Employing a sporting director is a financial burden. It's not just an easy thing to employ. Like Kofi said, one, the team itself should not just be a mere simple, normal team, just a first team. It should be a team. Now, you were talking about England. You know that England, they just had to force them to even Manchester United to just get a female team just last 4 years. They didn't even have a female team.
They didn't need it.
They didn't even want it. They had to force Manchester United, literally. So they went to buy a Division 1 team. and they put in their own players, and they started it. That is how come even Real Madrid did not even have a female team. They had to. It was Barcelona who were champion. In fact, Barcelona is one of the pioneers to make every sporting discipline paramount in everything that they do, and they've been successful in all of them.
There's a reason to that. So I was reading, it all boils down to the history of the formation of Barcelona,
Yeah.
and because of they being the minority at the
Yeah,
time of
yeah.
the Catalan rule, they needed something
They were
just
rebels.
to find relevance in.
Yeah, yeah.
And sports was what they
Channel.
found
The channel.
their relevance in. So they decided to, let's bring
Every
the
single thing.
talented guys and talented everybody who is, if you're good in hockey, let's put you together. If you're good in basketball, if you're good in this, if you're good. That's one of the reasons why they are seemingly the most successful in terms of they've been able to build a sporting
Everything.
entity. Yeah.
So when you bring to our our dispensation of our
Oh, but
play,
we have Azakes ladies.
so
We have
if-
Kotoko ladies.
so Kotoko ladies,
Heart of Folk ladies.
Heart of Folk. Kofi
You want me
just-
to go on and
Kofi
on?
just made me understand that apart from Aurora, they don't even have under 18. We don't have under 15. Even
No,
the
Hearts don't have.
even with the football, if we say Ghana, our Ghana league, we want to play under 18. How many teams can provide under 18?
You know, we tried to play an under 20 league, and it
Yeah,
was just
it
about
was
9
awesome.
teams.
It won't work. So
we
even
struggled.
with the normal one, it's not going to work. Then you come to the other sporting discipline. And the one thing is that even our normal football is not stable. The LLE you are talking about, they are one of the most polarized teams when it comes to how they handle, in fact, their management. They suck like crazy. In fact, if you check LLE, it's like they don't have a project. If you look at them very well, you think like they don't have a project. And me, that's how I see them. They are like, we are the best in Africa, and at every point in time, we should win. They don't understand. They are the exam like they don't understand the fact that we get to a time we fold in, we restart, we regroup, and we come forward. No, they don't know how to do that. Zamalek, likewise, they are just like that. If you are talking about a team like you were talking about Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns, all they have is their teams. They don't also have this under 18, under this, under that, under this. So, like you said, if you bring a sporting director in, what is he coming to? Because if you already have a director of football, it's enough for him to do all of this work. Bringing him on board will make him redundant. So, our version of bringing a technical director for Ghana Football Association, that we have under 17, under 8, we have under 17, under 20, under 23, both male and female. We have the senior national team. We have those who sit in a wheelchair, right? We have
The amputee too.
Yeah.
amputees. We have the male. We have female. So together, we have about 8 to 9 teams. But we have about 96 management committee members, and we don't have a sporting director for it. So if it is a sporting director, I think in Africa can do is to put that sporting director as the head of the national, that is the FIS, maybe if it's the NFF, Nigerian Football Association, Football Federation, maybe
They didn't even talk about beach soccer.
we even have beach soccer.
Yeah.
So there's futsal.
Yeah.
So together it's like 10 to 12. And that is a lot. That is something that a sporting director should manage. But before I even forget, our sporting director, is he still there?
Yes, it's around.
We don't have currently, we don't have a sporting director.
Sorry,
we have
our
a
technical director, our German.
The German.
The,
It's around.
yeah, I
You
cannot
put-
confirm. I cannot confirm.
No, is he there?
It's around.
I
It's
cannot
around.
confirm. Anyway, guys, if you're watching us, this is Sports 101. Interesting discussion this morning. Today we decided to take it, a notch higher. Sometimes a little bit away from what you usually know. And most of the times when it comes to football, there's a lot of education that is lacking. Today we decided to take that approach and see if we can try and bring the game more closer to you in terms of education. But if you are doing the listening, if you are doing the watching, we are live on Tadi FM 99.1, and this is Sports 101 live on YouTube. If you've not subscribed to our channel yet, make sure you subscribe to our channel. Click on the subscription button. Kofi would take some comments. Yes, Kofi will help us take some comments. Then we'll come back and conclude with an interesting topic that I think that will stir up, some controversies in your home. So, Kofi, can you help us with some?
Yes,
some
quickly
comments?
we'll take some comments from YouTube, our YouTube page. Dominic says more fire. So then Richard says that Kofi, thank you so much for calling my darling club Accra to Folk one Chendi. Oh, I mean that is mischief, but so far those are some of the comments from our viewers on YouTube.
A WhatsApp message. Okay.
It says, "Hi, good morning. Is it Bengals? Watching and listening from Racecourse, sorry. I think Monaco 2016-2017 project was superb. I think that's what I had."
Okay, so keep the comments coming, keep the messages coming as well. So you can join in the conversation on our WhatsApp line. So Percy, put the WhatsApp line there
WhatsApp
again.
line is 0242 145 249. 0242 145 249.
0242145249. Just make sure you subscribe to Sport 101 every Saturday morning from 8:30 to 10 o'clock. We come your way with interesting sporting discussion, interesting conversation for you. And then, is there a pool? Do you have a pool? We don't have a pool. But what sporting project has excited you in the last 20 years? For me, it's got to do with the Barcelona project, the Real Madrid project, the second Galactic, the two Galactico eras all were very, very exciting. For you to be able to amass these players, Luis Figo, Zinedine Zidane. Come on, that's greed. That's greed at the highest
for
level.
them to do what they did to Luis Figo.
Greed at the highest level.
I still don't get it.
I
mean,
greed at the highest level. So there's been some interesting, exciting projects, but I think that currently the one project that's very exciting is the City project. People are hoping to see where this project would lead to in terms of
the Benfica project.
This
is not to win.
These teams have
Yes,
always
is to make money.
That's
also a project.
For the likes of even Borussia Dortmund and Porto, and for them, they always now they've understood where their level
They
is.
are not coming to the Champions League.
Produce Ajax and all of that.
All of these other teams.
But Bessie,
talking about project, you realize I stated something that most of the time the climax of a project is to win a trophy.
yeah,
Whoa.
It's a Champions League.
yeah.
And
Bring me Pep Guardiola and City.
usually when you are saying you use the Champions League, you might sometimes be wrong. Yes, like I told you, some of the teams, their project is we get our players to the limelight. I wrapped my head over it. And
Take it again. Very, very interesting. Take it again.
Win the Champions League.
Oh God.
Your domestic league,
Domestic league. Which one is?
guys. This is
The
what Percy.
COVID league.
This is what Percy wants to do this morning. Percy wants to confuse us. Percy wants to, put our heads together. But what do you think? Which is more difficult to win? Winning your domestic league and winning the Champions League? Which is more difficult? And why? I don't think that you just say winning the Champions League. Which is more difficult and why? I want to see your take, or I want to hear from you in the comment section. So which is more difficult to win, the Champions League or your domestic league? Just engage us. Engage us. We can put it out there as a poll or something. We can put it out there so that people would vote. Which is more difficult to win? We will come back to read your comments, but the guys will have their take. Percy,
The funny thing is that
you are the one who
for
brought
the
it
first
up.
time-
You are the one who brought it up.
for the first time, what I would do is that I would spread some things out, and I think it would make it easier for whoever wants to make it, his or her choice to make it.
Please, our minds are formed.
No, it's not
But
you.
yeah, our minds are
There
formed.
are some times
You know, when you ask the question, Arsenal fans started looking away.
there are sometimes when your mind may be made up, but somebody can convince
So
you.
I'll just put it across.
Yeah.
Funny thing is that for the Champions League, only about 5 teams have won it once.
Yeah.
Wow.
The next thing is that apart from these 5 teams, which I'll give you will have to go to a semi-final and lose more than once, or go to a final and lose before you win. Those who have won it, some have never qualified again.
Hey.
Steaua Bucharest, I don't think you remember him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Romania.
Yeah, Romania.
When was the last time they qualified? But they won one.
Wow.
Red Star Belgrade, Crvena Zvezda. Now that's their name now. Former Yugoslavia. They won it with the likes of Boban and the rest, and
Wow.
KTC, Agnelli. They went to scoop all their players to AC Milan. They won it one. Feyenoord won. Aston Villa won.
Oh, Feyenoord have a Champions League.
1970.
Wow.
PSV Eindhoven won.
Wow.
Forest.
Nottingham Forest 2.
True, yeah.
Then Aston Villa 1.
So Arsenal don't have Nottingham Forest.
Please, I just
I
listed
said
those
when
who
this
have.
put out the question, Arsenal
So,
fans started looking
these-
away.
Because Chelsea and Forest are literally the mates.
Oh, yes.
But yet they want to compete with the.
Please, can I continue?
Yeah,
boys.
please continue.
So I've mentioned 5 teams who have won it 1. Then we have those who have won it 2. They are there. Then the 3 are there. After 3, then there's 4-1, Ajax. 5-1, that is Barca. 6-2, that is Bayern and Liverpool.
Liverpool.
Then AC Milan 7. Then Almighty has doubled it to 14. So only a handful of teams have been able to win the Champions
So how
League.
many teams have won the Champions League in
So
total?
if I Real Madrid,
Yes, sir.
so Real Madrid 1, Bayern and Liverpool 2, then Barca 3, then those Ajax 4, then those who have won it 3, United and Inter 3-3, then 2-2. You have Chelsea, you have Nottingham Forest, Juventus 2-2, 7 finals.
Inter Milan.
Inter Milan has won it 3.
Yes, but Inter Milan belongs. They are Champions League winners.
I said 3-3 is United, so that is 7.
Oh, Inter
8.
have 3.
Inter have 3
They have
Champions
3.
League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they went back to back. Then they went 50 years before they
Yeah,
won again.
Before Jose Mourinho won it
Before
again.
Mourinho won it
Okay.
again. Then the 1-1-1-1-1-5. So they are not even up
To
to
20.
not up to 20. 15 teams
Yeah.
have won it since
Out
Champions League.
of all the...
Since Champions League started
Over 1 million
60
teams
years
in
ago.
Europe.
Over 60 years ago.
Wow.
If you use that tangent and say that it is difficult to win more than your league, you would also be wrong, because it also depends on the league you are playing in. Now let me come to the league. The very teams who have won the Champions League and their league.
You're even making my point very easy for me.
That's why I said, for me, this one, I won't take my stand.
No, you need to. Because
Okay,
you
I'll
don't,
take
you,
my
you
stand.
don't throw a question at us and expect
So
that. You
not
need to
up
take
to
a stand.
20 teams have won the Champions
15.
League.
No.
Hey.
Yes. Now the league, those who have won the Champions League and have won the league. Funny enough, you know Nottingham Forest have won more Champions League than league.
Yeah.
They've won 2
Oh,
and they won 1 league.
yeah.
Wow.
But then, apart from that is Nottingham Forest who have done that. Every other person who has won it has won the league on multiple occasions. Even Aston Villa has won
Yeah.
7. So for them,
Aston Villa have more league trophies than Chelsea.
can we continue? It's
Yes.
the same, 7-7.
Okay.
Kofi, you are just trying to be mischievous.
But let's stick to the
So what I'm trying
But
to say
Chelsea have
is that
6 league trophies.
Percy, which
Yeah,
is
6.
more difficult to win?
For me.
Winning your domestic league
me.
title or winning the league title and winning the Champions League, which is more difficult?
the most difficult thing,
Yes.
For
The most difficult title to win.
the most difficult title to win, to me,
Yes.
there might be a whole lot of qualms that people can talk about. You might think someone has won it 14 times, but Champions League is the most difficult title to win.
Why do you say so?
Club title.
Wow.
Listen, you might say that the league is a marathon. Fine. So for Leicester to pull out that surprise, I would say it's the biggest surprise in football ever. It doesn't matter whatever happens. Champions League might just be about 12 to 13 matches. Yes, it might be about 12 to 13 matches. But then playing the Champions League is like a game of chess. Unfortunately, you don't just play with the people in your league. That is one. You don't play with the people in your league. With the people in your league or the teams in your league, you know how to go about it. You know how to set your whatever. You know how to put things together. Let's say if you are playing in the English Premier League, almost every team in the Premier League plays the same style. Almost every team in the Premier League. Maybe you can take AB City out because of a few touches. Even Guardiola has even succumbed.
Yeah.
He doesn't even play tiki-taka anymore. Now it's all balls to Haaland.
Kick and run.
No, that's not true. City don't play.
I didn't say kick and run. Most of their goals. There was a time that Peter Drury said something that their goals seem simple, but you can't stop it. It's square pass, tapping, square pass. That's what they do. Even they have succumbed. So if you go to the Italian league, they almost all of them play the same league, the same style. If you go to the German, they play almost the same style. So one, you go to play in a competition with different style. Two, is the caliber of coaches that you meet. You might say that all of the best coaches are in the Premier League, but then not all of them are scattered there. Some of them too, you can find them in the other leagues. The next thing is that you get to play the best of the teams who have either won their league or have been able to get themselves placed in the top four. Playing in your league, even if you are having the best or the baddest of the, you get a chance to play in relegation threatening teams, about 4 to 5 to 6 of them. But if you are playing in the Champions League, even if you are going to play Red Star Belgrade or you are going to play Otello Kalati, for nothing at all, they are champions of their league. And it might look very simple, but you are going to meet a team who also have some level of pedigree. So this, and the next thing is that the Champions League itself has a history that backs it. And the one thing that I would use to also buttress this whole thing is that it has been the crown jewel of a matured and a successful project over the time.
The crown jewel.
Kofi.
The crown jewel.
Crown
Kofi.
jewel.
The last thing before even Kofi comes in,
Crown jewel.
it took Chelsea 9 years to realize this. Within these 9 years, they had won 5 league trophies. If the league was that difficult, why would they win 5 league trophies before they win, 4 league trophies, before they win the Champions League? It has taken PSG, they started 2011, 12 years,
And final.
one final.
Arsenal
You-
over 100
you-
years.
you've made your
I mean,
point.
you can make
So
a fact.
Percy-
And Arsenal
I
over,
think I'm done.
Yes,
Arsenal
Percy
over
believes
100
that.
years.
Percy believes that.
Arsenal over 100
it
years,
is-
one
it-
league
it
final,
is
one
more-
Champions League final.
It is more difficult to win the Champions League
I forgot, it took
Than
Barcelona
to-
almost 40 years.
than to
Yeah.
win
Yes.
than to win the Champions League. He feels that the Champions League, is
It's the crown
very
jewel.
very
Crown
difficult.
It's the crown jewel
Very
of
very
your
difficult to
successful
win. He's
project.
outlined his point. What do you say? Which is more difficult to win?
Well, I think I perfectly agree with Lucky. And
You
if
don't
it's-
you don't agree with me?
No, I
Yeah.
perfectly disagree with you. I know where you stand. You
How
understand?
do you know where I stand?
No, I know where you stand because you can you try to make a good example of Pep Guardiola and his City team and the culmination of that whole City project. And Percy talks about the fact that it's the crown jewel. We want to see the crown jewel. We want to see Pep Guardiola hold the crown jewel. But I think I agree perfectly with everything that Percy has said. The facts speak for itself. Listen, I would want to bring in this angle. It is difficult to win the Champions League because you'd have to be the ultimate strategist and you'd have to be a manager. Today we talked about projects. You have to be a manager who is able to run 2 parallel projects at the same time to win the Champions League. Champions League, you see, to win the Champions League, you would have to adopt a different style of football than the one that exists domestically. And there are not so many managers and teams that are able to make that transition. That's why Arsenal is where it is. Because Arsenal, you see, in their pump, they could go unbeaten in the league. They could go whole season unbeaten. It was that season that they went unbeaten in the league that they went to the Champions League final. I stand to be no. Okay,
Nah.
okay. A
They went
couple
to the
of
Champions League final in
yeah,
2006.
2006. They did it in 2003.
Yeah.
2000.
2000.
No, they
2000.
bottled a final against, is it Galatasaray? So that was
Yes.
the UEFA Cup.
UEFA Cup.
We're talking about the
Yes.
Champions League. They won. They became
No, the Invincibles were in
2004.
2003, 2004
Exactly.
season.
So when they did that, they obviously the crown jewel had to be they making the Champions League final
That was it.
with all of their superstars. I think that there are over 1,000 teams in Europe, over 1,000 teams. In fact,
Actually,
more
22
than
teams who have won. 22.
so more than two. I really struggle to put the figures together.
500
To think
million
that-
of coins.
500 million teams in Europe. I mean, this is just by the way. And to think that only 22 teams have won the Champions League, that's amazing. I think, like I said previously, to win the Champions League, you'd have to be the perfect strategist. And you'd have to find the perfect balance. I mean, of creating teams that are dual in nature. So yes, you can have elements of that team that are able to function domestically. So you can have elements of that team function domestically. I'm always quick to make that example about Jinson Park and that Manchester United team. Jinson Park, if you watch his stay at Manchester United, virtually was not a mainstay domestically. But when he came to Europe, he was the guy that led the rapid response unit. The guy that will quickly transition from their box. 6 seconds they are in the opponent box. You understand? So you look at the Champions League also. I think that you need to be a manager that perfects that whole competition style of play. Away goal rules, how do you adapt? I mean, how do you do this? How do you do this? How do you do this? In fact, one of the biggest challenges of Pep Guardiola under City has been the fact that he's always been a guy who is scared of going full throttle when they are playing away from home.
Yeah.
People have called him the handbrake manager. So when City goes away from their home ground, they pull the handbrake. They go and play cowardly. You understand? So there are a lot of examples to that. I think that winning the Champions League is easy. And
Have one more.
it's not easy, sorry. It's very difficult because you would have to be able to negotiate all of the difficult things. And Percy talks about the fact that to win the Champions League, you'd have to beat cathedrals.
Cathedrals.
You'd have to beat Real Madrid. Ask City. When after 79 minutes they were leading 1-0 at the
79.
Bernabeu.
88.
I didn't want to stretch the clock back. You understand?
The
When
eight
at the
minutes.
88th minute, they were playing Real Madrid, a Real Madrid team that did not have so many superstars. On comes Rodrigo from the bench. Rodrigo, a relatively unknown Brazilian, young Brazilian, comes in because he plays for a club that has been indoctrinated with the spirit of Champions League. He comes in, makes that flying header. All of a sudden, Karim Benzema finds his pump again, and they are all over the place. You understand? Look at Real Madrid's run to that particular Champions League last season. Look at what they did to PSG. Look at the characters in that Real Madrid team vis-a-vis the characters in that PSG team. You might want to think that on paper, the characters on that Real Madrid paper ordinarily should not match to the characters in the PSG team. Because the PSG team has bigger personalities who have played football and have seen it all.
In conclusion,
The Champions League is not made for everyone.
so guys, Kofi and Percy believe that the Champions League is very, very difficult to win, and it's so easy to win the domestic league or your domestic league in comparison to the Champions League. What do you think? I'll come back and take your comments before we wrap up.
What is your take?
Obviously you would have my take before we wrap up on the show this morning or the conversation. But if you are listening to us, we are live on Tadi FM 99.1, as well as we are live on Facebook. If you've not subscribed yet, make sure you do subscribe. So this is my take, and for those watching us and to those listening to us, I believe that it is more difficult to win your domestic league than winning the Champions League. And I'll start off from this tangent. You play a competition of literally about 7 matches. In that 7 matches, out of the 7, you are given the luxury of lottery.
It's not 7. 13 matches.
Sorry, 13 matches. You are given the luxury of lottery because you have the option in terms, not you do not choose, but there is a draw that determines where to place you and which team to you play against. Now, there is every tendency that you can find yourself in a group that is made up of grade D teams. Now, what people do not understand is that as much as the Champions League is made up of teams that have won their domestic league, teams that have placed in the top 4 of their various leagues, there are certain countries that are given the luxury to represent in the Champions League that are not grade A teams.
But they are not seeded.
Ludogorets,
They are not seeded.
Star Bucharest, or some of these teams, most of them are not grade A teams. If you look at the Champions League, the citadel of the Champions League belongs to the grade A teams. There is a reason why, if you look at teams that have dominated the Champions League over the years, it belongs to a certain category of teams.
So you're saying the Champions League has been skewed in favor of some teams?
Let me finish making my point.
No, you're saying?
There's a reason why I kept quiet and listened to all of you
This
go
is
on
scandalous.
fumble and do all of that. Let me finish. There's a reason why the Champions League belongs to a certain citadel, or certain category of teams. Forget about what you want to say. When we talk about the Champions League, you mention Real Madrid, you mention Bayern Munich, you mention Liverpool, you mention Manchester United. Even though, for me, I don't see why people still want to put Manchester United as
You were
what.
the one who mentioned.
No, I'm
Nobody
coming.
mentioned.
Oh, but truth be told, when Manchester is operating at the highest level, whenever the Champions League draw is made, teams that are expected to win, their name will be mentioned. There's a reason why. Maybe because of what they've done domestically. That even adds more to my point. The point I'm trying to make here is that it belongs to a certain category. Now, if you watch the Champions League, truth be told, why would a competition that relies on drawing of lots be difficult to win? Because listen, from the group stages right down to the final stage, every single pairing is what is based on luck. Because Real Madrid can go through the group stage through to the final stage with the possibility of not playing grade A teams till they get there. Fact.
I disagree.
Bayern Munich can go through the process of playing from the group stage through to the final without playing a certain category of teams, and would only at probably a certain point play one grade A team
So
till
why
they
is
get to
City-
the
so
final.
why is City failing to win?
Let me finish making my point.
You believe Messi is the greatest player?
Let me
based
finish
on
making my
casting of
point.
lots.
The point I'm trying to make here is that
Wait, Lucky, no.
Oh.
No, Lucky, wait.
No,
wait,
Lucky,
wait.
no.
No, wait.
Lucky,
No.
we
I
are
have-
not-
I have
no,
just five-
no, we
I
are-
have just 5
please,
minutes.
No,
we
you
are
don't
not
have 5 minutes. You have 2
No, we are not
minutes.
interjecting. We are not interjecting.
Let me
I am
finish.
just saying
Let
something.
me finish. Let me finish making. Let me finish making my point. The point I'm trying to make here is that the point I'm trying to make here is that I think that our listeners are realizing that you guys are realizing you want to derail my thought. The point I'm trying to
Oh,
make.
you have shot yourself. in
No,
the
I've not
foot.
shot myself in the foot. The point. Let me finish making my point. The point I'm trying to make here is that you compete in a competition that relies on drawing of lots. If imagine this Super League they want to create, where they put all teams in there, the big boys of the big boys. This league, actually one of the reasons why they want to create the Super League is that they want to create a certain level of competition that will ensure that the best of the best play the best of the best. Because truth be told, there are times when the Champions League draw is made, and even those who sit back say that the hot ball, the cold ball, teams are being manipulated so that certain teams will meet certain teams. We hear all these, conspiracy theories being thrown around. But when it comes to a league competition, now, if you have a team of a league, a 20-man team,
Everybody
a 20-man
plays everybody.
league.
Yeah.
Now, in a marathon, you do not choose which team to play. But in the Champions League, you have the luxury of avoiding certain teams at a point where you feel that, okay, I am not strong enough.
Same as the World Cup.
I am not strong enough.
Same
yes,
as the
same
World
as the
Cup.
World Cup. I am not.
So it
That
takes
is why.
luck
That is
to
why.
win the World
Yes,
Cup. Okay.
for me.
But you know,
For
some
me.
teams can
Okay.
play some teams so that they will lose.
Okay.
Calciopoli too is there.
Oh, those things happen everywhere, whether in a league or
So
whether
you
in a
know
league.
So it takes
The
a
point
lot
I'm,
of luck
the
to-
point I'm, the,
to
the point
win
I'm
the
trying
World
to,
Cup.
the point I'm trying to
It's
read
not
here is
easy,
that
World Cup,
the
yeah.
point I'm trying to make here is that if you are in a 20-man team, you do not have the luxury of picking and choosing which team to play. Now, in a 20-man team, form is very, very important. Form is very, very important. Do you know why form is very, very important? You do not determine at what point your form dips or your form rises. In a 20 league, you do not determine that. But when you are playing what is it? A
competition.
cup competition, your form can dip when you are going to play team A or team B.
Lucky.
But when you are playing
we'll
a
continue
20-man
this
team,
conversation tomorrow. We'll take off
we-
from
yeah,
this point tomorrow.
probably we'll
Yeah,
continue.
We'll take this conversation
Then-
tomorrow because I have a lot to say. But
Obviously, you do have a lot to say because I decided not to
yeah,
interject you guys because
we'll-
most of your points you've
Yeah.
made relied on why has this team not won? Why has this team won? Ask yourself, why is it that
Well, thank
Real
you.
Madrid,
Well,
other teams
thank,
have won?
thank
Guys,
you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Tomorrow we go again same time from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. On YouTube and then on Tadi 99.1 FM. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and if you're watching us from the diaspora, please spend the super stickers. And if you are watching us on YouTube, kindly subscribe, share the link with your friends, comment on the comment section, and then do all of the things that you need to do. See you again tomorrow evening.